5 things you must know before getting into commercial real estate sales. Since I started making these informational videos about working in commercial real estate sales, been getting some emails as well as some people reaching out to me asking about some of the basics about getting into commercial real estate, getting started, what you must know in your first year, and that sort of thing. So I've made some videos previously on those topics, so if you haven't checked those out, go ahead and watch those after you've watched this one. But in this video, I'm going to talk to you about the 5 things you must know before getting into commercial real estate sales. Let's just get right into this. Number 1, you won't be making a lot of money in the beginning, and that's very true. In the beginning could be your first year or your first 2 years or 3 years. However long it takes for you to actually make enough income to sustain yourself working full-time in commercial real estate sales is completely up to you, up to your efforts, up to what you're doing to increase your knowledge, to increase your network, some of the things that you're doing on a daily basis to build your commercial real estate sales. Depending on how long it takes for you to figure out the things you need to know, it could take quite a while before you actually start closing transactions, making commissions, and earning income from working in commercial real estate sales. It just takes some time to get established, to learn what you're doing, learn your market, learn about buildings, learn how to get listings, learn how to do property showings. To learn this entire trade, this entire business, it does take some time. So don't expect to make really any money until maybe year 2 or year 3, after you've had some experience, you've closed some transactions, and you basically know what you're doing. So in the meantime, I highly recommend that you also work maybe in a part-time job, or maybe you have your own business, something that will provide you income so that you can continue building your commercial real estate sales business and ultimately do this full-time working in commercial real estate sales. Next, you need to know that you'll be driving quite a bit. You'll be driving around a lot. You'll be looking at different buildings, looking at different properties, going to different neighborhoods, just checking out what other areas are like, because, well, you're going to be either representing owners of buildings, of businesses in those areas, helping them to market their property for sale or release, or you'll be helping business owners who are looking to expand into these areas. And if you don't know what it's like, what the business climate is like, what are the demographics, what's the traffic, what sort of stuff is around a particular area, well, get in your car and then go out, drive to that area, learn it, talk to people, take notes, take photos, take videos, do what you have to do in order to learn different areas. But you can't really build a commercial real estate business from your desk. You have to be hitting the streets, you have to be driving neighborhoods, you have to be talking to people and learning about your product, and learning about some of the trends and what's coming, what's going, all these things that are happening in areas, in businesses. You need to get familiar with those sorts of things, which is related to number 3, is you need to get used to cold calling companies, cold calling strangers, just talking to people you've never talked to before, trying to get information, trying to learn more about what's the situation with this building, who owns it, are you guys renting, or do you own it? Asking all sorts of questions that will ultimately help you to help others when it comes to getting into that commercial real estate space, or marketing a commercial real estate space for sale or lease to another prospective owner or tenant. In order to get to those types of conversations, there's no better way to meet business owners, meet people who work at these companies, than to first call them on the phone. Since it's a business, it's fairly easy to find the business phone number, and then you just basically call. Chances are you'll be contacting the owner, and you want to introduce yourself and ask them, have they considered maybe expanding into a new location, maybe in the next 6 to 12 months, or maybe you've seen that they have some properties for sale, maybe they didn't sell, maybe they did sell. How was that experience? If they could do something differently, what would they do? There's all sorts of things that you can talk about when it comes to commercial real estate when you're talking to these folks that you want to do business with, that you want to help with your knowledge. Best way to build these connections is by reaching out, making the phone calls, sending the emails, going to the networking events, Using social media, writing blog posts, writing emails, doing what you can to share your knowledge, being useful to business owners, and also building these relationships, learning about their situation, learning about their goals, their visions, what they've done in the past with commercial real estate, what they're looking to do in the future. And once you have this knowledge, then you can easily match that up with what you're seeing in the market, with the research that you're doing, with some of the new opportunities that are popping up. The more you know about who you're working with and what they're looking for, the faster and the easier it'll be to match up those offers with those opportunities, those people with the people they should be talking to. And doing this sort of stuff on a daily basis will ultimately help you to build a successful commercial real estate sales business. Okay, number 4, you need to know a lot about buildings, neighborhoods, companies, and basically how to run a business. And the best way to know about these things is by simply learning about them. Like I said earlier, learn about these buildings, whether you're doing retail, you're doing restaurants, office space, medical space, whatever sort of buildings that you want to specialize, or maybe you're doing everything. Get out there, look at these buildings, talk to these owners, take a close look at what's the construction, what's the condition, what are some of the market rents that are going for this type of property versus that property in that part of town versus that city. All sorts of information that you want to be learning and continue to familiarize yourself until it becomes second nature. You can look at a building and immediately identify, yes, 10,000 square feet, they got a couple of loading docks, masonry construction with a membrane roof. You'll be rattling this stuff off just as if it's second nature, like it's your own house or whatever. The only way that you can know about these buildings, learn about this type of knowledge, is by going out, looking at these properties. Again, commercial real estate is not built from your desk. You got to hit the streets. You got to hit the streets of these neighborhoods. You got to talk to these company owners. You got to learn about these different types of companies that are maybe wherever you live, a certain type of industry is dominant, whether it's finance or biotechnology or maybe service-based types of companies, whatever type of economic factors and the sorts of things that generate revenue in your area where you live. You want to become an expert in that type of stuff, just knowing what sorts of industries are doing well, what sorts of industries are maybe not doing so well, what are some of the growth opportunities that are coming up. The more that you have a handle on that type of knowledge, the better you'll be able to then identify certain types of properties that could be turned into expansions of that type of industry. Hey, that abandoned warehouse over there could easily be turned into maybe a medical cannabis facility in areas where cannabis is legalized and being produced and sold, maybe on a retail or medical distribution level. We're seeing just huge opportunities for redevelopment to then turn these old warehouses, old factories, whatever, into useful structures that are used in the production of cannabis. It's a tremendously growing industry, no pun intended. And then lastly, you just want to realize that you are creating the new earth. You are creating jobs and opportunities and coming up with these visions and then matching those visions up with the visions of business owners. You're doing all this stuff. You got to realize how big this responsibility is and how much power you actually have. You are creating the new earth simply by making some phone calls, sending some emails, driving some neighborhoods, looking at properties, going on tours, talking to people. It's just stuff that you're already doing anyway. But it's very important what you are doing. So I hope this was helpful to you. If you have any questions, as usual, you can always send me an email at jkim@pyramidbrokerage.com. Thanks for checking out. See you next time. Bye.